of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll. Here.
Present.
Present.
Ted Van Hout.
So moved. Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. You can hear us? And actually, what I experienced Am I on now?
You're on now.
Okay, sorry. Well, I apologize to the audience. We're on now, so thank you very much. I guess the little green button has to be on.
Yeah, it has.
We'll
That's
make
not
sure
for
we
Christmas.
talk into the mic. Next, we have approval of the minutes of our November 14th meeting. You have the minutes. Anybody have any additions, corrections? If not, we'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move that the minutes of November 14th, 2017 be approved.
I will second that.
Support? Any comments? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next, item number 6 on our agenda, we have vouchers that are listed, pages 6 through 13 of our packet. Entertain a motion to approve if there are no comments. Any questions?
I make a motion that we approve vouchers 13665 through 13676.
Are there any comments or support, please? Support. Support? Brenda? Les, you had a question?
Yeah, looking for it whenever I did it. On page 9, the pay-use chase, we got all these miscellaneous department charges for a total of $913.81. What is all that?
That's on the Visa card, but I'd have to pull it out of Ann's office to figure out what everything was on it. They put it down as miscellaneous department charges.
I mean, it's charges that we make or somebody...
No, that we made.
Oh, okay. All right.
Are a lot of these small purchases of tools, equipment you might need?
It could be, stop and think, it could be gas, it could be something for working overtime, like meals. It could be something from the hardware store, then they had the credit card, or they had to run to Home Depot to get something. It just depends. It could be a class at the last minute.
Well, they total for the month $913, and a couple were $15 or $20, and one was $378. Wanted to pursue that, Les? And get that?
Oh, I'm happy with that.
All right.
Okay.
I have another question, though. What valve did they change on Marlboro?
8-inch mainline valve right at Marlboro and West River Road.
The one in the Gatewell?
Correct.
Are you talking into the mic there?
I wasn't, but I just was informed that I needed to do that. Thank you.
That's all.
Okay, that's it. All right, if there are no other questions, all in favor of approving the vouchers indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Vouchers are approved. Next, we have item number 7 is a review of statement of revenues and expenditures, pages 14 through 19. I didn't notice anything abnormal. We're in the 8th month of operating for our water sewer operations. Any questions? There are none, we'll move on to the treasurer's report for this treasurer's report is for public service operations, water, sewer, refuse, and those activities. Pages 2021, the treasurer's report. I have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Support.
Order that?
Kennedy.
Bill, thank you.
If there are no questions, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Treasurer's report is approved. The one thing I would notice is on the back page, page 21, our road funds after our expenditures this summer are down to $18,000, although the treasurer is going to start collecting with the new tax statement the 0.4 of a mil again, so that'll be replenished. But we do things, that's mostly for our local neighborhood street improvements. Okay, with that, there's public comment opportunity, and we have in the audience, not really public, but our Township Supervisor, Brian Loftus. We're pleased to have you here. And I know you want to participate on the back of our agenda on the road discussion, but I'd certainly love to have you come up and speak to us.
After poking fun at people for not raising this, I guess I had to figure out how to do it. How to do it myself. Okay, good evening, Public Service Commissioners and Ms. Beneteau, John. I'm Brian Loftus, Township Supervisor. This is just an update on what we know on the bridge load rating restrictions we were just apprised of last week. So I put in a letter to my contacts at Wayne County DPS. Bernard Parker has been moved to DPS. He works for Beverly Watts, who's the DPS director, and he's been my point of contact. He moved over from the executive's office. He's always been straightforward and very responsive to my requests, and I try to provide the same, professional, professional courtesies to him. So he promised me he would have some information on why the restrictions were imposed. He was going to have by 3 o'clock today. Well, 3 o'clock, at 2:59, he sent me a text message. He was going into meeting with their staff. At 5:17, he called me at home, and also had Mike Gorman, who is in the staff side. I don't recall Mr. Gorman's title, Michael Gorman. Anyway, we were on a conference call, and the background is Wayne County has 310 bridges, and up until just recently, they've only had one engineer who is responsible for all those inspections. So in June, I guess they got notice that they were a little bit behind, or there were some problems with timeliness of inspections. They hired a total of 5 companies to run bridge inspections. Let's see. They got the detail and load ratings in a period through August and October as a result of the inspections. And that's resulted in the notification that we got on the 4 bridges within the township, along with this one I think was a follow-on to the inspection of the main bridge, 382, the not-so-free bridge, as I like to refer to it. There's nothing free about that. But let's see. The most restrictive, of course, is the Swan Island Bridge, which was limited to 10 tons, and then the one on East River to Upper Hickory, which is restricted to 18 tons. He's reported there was some scour on the abutments on one of those bridges. Again, he's playing catch-up on all of this himself because he's just brought into the staff. My comments, or the ones I want to question on, this is very abrupt. He said it hit them suddenly too, and that's not the way they want to do business. They don't want us to get, I'm going to call it a blind side from the weighmaster. There has to be a better chain of communication between the staffs of the 2 communities to get this information out. Not oh, by the way, I'm the weighmaster and everything's closed, which seems to be the trend it was heading. Bernard assures me that will improve, but the big question is, what will be the repair what will be the program? What will be the recommended repairs? How will it be contracted? And the most important, how will it be paid for? No answers to those questions yet. I asked him, could we see copies of those inspections? He was unsure if he could release them. I said, I know there will be a community group requesting them by FOIA if you don't, so I would like them ahead of time. He says that's definitely the proper course of action, but he's going to check with his chain to make sure he can release them, but I think we can expect them fairly soon. And Bernard will get back to me before the end of the week on the status of it. He may have the reports for me, in which case I'll, of course, provide them for Jim as the liaison to this commission. Again, it was short notice. I'm sure there's a much, much bigger story, but this is what got to me reasonably officially, and this is what I'm willing to bring up to you. It isn't a whole lot. Again, I'm sure there's more behind it, but for public release, this is what we know. This is when we know it, right now, and we'll keep working with to find a course of action to get them back up to their full capacities.
Excuse me. You said there are 4 bridges in that letter?
Internal to the island.
Not counting the main bridge?
Not counting the bridge over the Trenton Channel.
So does that include all the bridges that are on the island?
There's 11 or 12 internal bridges. Every time I try to add them up, there's always one I forget.
There's always one more.
There seems like there's always one more, but there were 4 that had...
The other 2 was the Ferry Road over the canal, right, and then Meridian over the canal.
And there's been, I know of no work that's been on those bridges since probably Works Projects built them in 1932, possibly.
But you mentioned the Swan Island. What was the other one? Hickory Island?
The other one was the bridge that, it's more of a causeway. There's no superstructure to it. The causeway that runs from, I'll call it mainland Grosse Ile to Hickory Island.
Meso.
Yeah, Meso. It's a Meso bridge.
Meso, yeah.
Okay, I know where you mean.
Yeah, we know where it is now.
Yeah.
And I think Lorinda has received a copy of that letter, right?
It was not a letter, it was a sheet.
Email?
It was a sheet showing me the list of bridges.
Yeah, I'll put it on Elmo here if I can.
Turn Elmo on the side, Brian.
So presumably that's clear enough you can read on your monitors, except for Bill's that has the 3 bullet holes in it, which is the same one I have. So anyway, the ones highlighted in yellow are the ones in question. Here's Meridian over Thoroughfare, Meridian over Thoroughfare, East River, Ferry over Thoroughfare, and then the Swan Island Canal Bridge.
I think at some point it would be good to, down the road, for somebody, whether it's a small committee and our engineers, to meet with them on these bridges. I do know, I've heard reports, I've seen the underside of the bridge that leads over to Hickory Island by the Grosse Ile Yacht Club. And the underside is not pretty, with all the re-rod hanging down. I know that's the same with the Ferry Road Bridge. And on the Ferry Road Bridge, I know John would speak to this, over the last 10 years, a hole's developed, not on the bridge structure, but where the bridge abutment ends and the east side of the pavement comes to it. A hole developed, I think, this spring again, a hole about the size of a football where you could look down and water through it. And each time the county's come out and fixed it, or patched it up. But I'm sure they're not in good condition, some of these. So I think by law, all the bridges are supposed to be inspected twice a year. I'm sorry, once every 2 years. Mm-hmm. Once every 2 years. So it'd be good to get a copy of it, and we'll have to talk to what we can do. I know there's only so much money, but we need the bridges fixed at some point.
Yeah, the concerns, obviously, emergency equipment, school buses, deliveries. The passenger vehicles are rarely the problem, but there's a lot of other things going on. One of the
Trash
questions
pickup.
I did have was, when were they last inspected? He couldn't answer that, being new on the job, and he's pretty sure that information would be contained in the inspection reports.
Right.
It's going to be incumbent on us going forward to ensure the timeliness. We'll have to take some responsibility to ensure that these things are maintained.
Well, I'm glad you came and advised us. Thank you. And hopefully we can get a copy of that and someday receive a copy of the bridge reports, the dated ones.
I intend to get copies of the
Okay,
reports as
great.
soon as possible. And, of course, it'll all be shared among the appropriate agencies.
Great.
Okay?
Anything else you want to update us on?
That's been plenty.
So I know
Plenty
you-
for now.
no, I know you're going to stay for the road discussion, and I appreciate that very much. So thanks for being here.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Also, while you were talking, another trustee, Jim Nelson. Hi, Jim. Township trustee just walked in. Jim used to sit on this commission as a regular commissioner. All right. We're glad to see you, and you see what can happen, commissioners. You move up in the world. You become an elected official. And sometimes I'm not sure that's moving up, but at any rate, we're glad to have you here, Jim. Thank you. And hopefully you'll both participate with your thoughts on our road discussion. There's no other public comment tonight, and we'll go to the action items. The first for Lorinda or John is the purchase of a new pickup truck that would be used by the water department. And who's going to take it? We have a report in front of us.
Yeah, let me read the motion. Motion to recommend to the Township Board to purchase a 2017 Ford F-250 pickup 4x4 through the state government bid program from Gornell Ford in the amount of $36,072, which includes the accessories. This truck would be a replacement service truck. Truck number 5 passed away. It's no longer functioning. It had 85,000 miles on it, and we don't know how many engine hours because the clock doesn't work on it. So we had the truck looked at before we decided to purchase this. We also have this as a budgeted item for this year. The truck that would be prepared would be prepped for a plow. All we're going to do is transfer the plow from the old truck over to the new. There's approximately 3 months delivery time before we receive it. So we have budgeted $15,000 on the water side, $15,000 on the sewer side, and the balance would come from prior year's resources.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to say, John?
We use this truck on a daily basis, so it's imperative we make a move soon.
Okay. Are there questions from the commission? It's in the budget.
I got a question.
Les?
If it's going to take 3 months to get here, how come it can't be painted school bus yellow?
Paint any color, we would like to pay additional funds, but the state bid comes white.
Yeah.
Aren't all our other trucks white?
Yeah.
The ones that we've been purchasing of
Yeah,
late
they have
are
they're-
all white.
Yeah, they're all white.
That's what the state bid.
Bad part about that is you can't see them on a day like today. If you're on the highway, you can't see them. That's the bad part about it. That's why we had everything school bus yellow. But if that's the way it's going to be, that's the way it's going to be.
You have a flashing light on it, right?
Oh, yeah.
No, those are good comments, Les, but I'm not in favor of spending the extra money. I don't know how anybody else feels.
I agree. I think it's okay. The white is fine.
Are there other questions?
Yeah, what are they going to do with the old truck?
Auction.
Closed bid auction?
Say it again?
Closed bid auction?
Correct.
Sealed bid auction.
Sealed
Sealed
bid.
bid?
Yeah.
Are there other questions? Les? Hearing none. I'll entertain a motion to authorize the purchase of the pickup truck, which will go to the Township Board as a recommendation.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
Any other questions? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
You can
Thank you.
buy a new truck and get it here quicker. Item number 2 is set a date for a public information meeting on the West River Road Water Main Project. Lorinda?
The purpose of the informational meeting is to inform the residents of the project in the area. I would like to set this informational meeting at our next meeting in February. And I'll send out notices to all those involved. I would like to send out a separate notice to those that will end up having a fire hydrant in front of their house. Because the last informational meeting that we had on East River, just the regular letter doesn't work. I didn't get enough turnout like I thought I would. So I'd like to send one individually to those that are going to be affected.
With the water,
With the fire hydrant, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to make sure it's in the correct location so we don't have to move it again, so.
Okay, good. So the deal is, if anybody from West River Road's watching, we have a project that's been planned for a couple of years now to replace the old 6-inch water main that's badly deteriorated with the new 12-inch water main that'll complete the circle on the perimeter of the island with 12-inch water mains. And it's going to be under the east lane, northbound lane. And so we want to invite the public to come into our February 13th meeting at 7 o'clock. If anybody's watching, every property owner will get a notice. The issue we had with the hydrants before, we found, is that people weren't necessarily pleased where the engineer, we need them spaced so many feet apart. But some people objected to where the 300-foot mark occurred on their front yard. And we have flexibility where we can move it 20, 30, 40, 50 feet here or there to avoid a tree or to avoid a driveway or something. So we try to work with people. So we are going to send the 2 letters out. And the 1 letter on the hydrants will say people can come in and look at the plans and right up to the DPS office. Try to avoid those problems. So at any rate, I'd like to have a motion to set the date for the public information meeting, and we'll have a handout with the schedule. Our plan is what? To take bids in January, so that by the time of our meeting, we will be ready to recommend an award of a contract with the idea they would start in March, the end of March, and with the water main, and hopefully be done by July 1st. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
I will second that.
All right, so we've made a motion to set the date for the public hearing, public meeting for the West River World Water Main Project for February 13th. Any comments? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Motion passed. Next item, Lorinda.
Okay, the next item is authorize Charles E. Raines Company to rebid the sanitary sewer cleaning and televising of the township sanitary sewer system. Both the federal NPDES wastewater discharge permit and Michigan DEQ permit for our wastewater treatment plant requires that the township undertake an organized sanitary sewer cleaning and inspection program. So each year, out of necessity, the DPS field staff cleans and inspects a very limited amount of sewer pipes, mostly to address problem areas. So you guys have talked about this before, about doing it different ways, and at our, I don't know if it was the last meeting or the one before that, we decided that we're going to go ahead and rebid this out. So I need a motion to move this forward.
Can I have a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Support? Anybody?
I'll support.
Okay, now are there any questions? Everybody clear as to where we are, as we've discussed this for almost a year now and gone back and forth? All right, so our budget has been $150,000 a year. That's what we intend to keep in the budget to do this work. But we are going to go out and take bids, and the idea was to award, we're going to try to do it in 5 years, do the whole township, but just award $150,000 a year for this sewer cleaning and television inspection. There are no more comments. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Now we have the manager's report.
Okay, first up, dust control. Last year, we talked about rebidding the project, and then we had the bridge weight limits imposed on us. So I contacted D&D Emulsions again, D&D Emulsions, and asked if they would still hold their prices. They said yes, they would. However, if prior to when the application goes down, if the barrel of oil rises $3 or more above, they would need an adjustment. So I'm coming to you to ask you, do you want to go ahead and extend their contract again, or would you like us to go out and rebid it?
What, you mentioned the bridge.
The weight limits.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, last year we had...
How did that work into it?
Yeah, it worked out to where they didn't bring anything extra. If they know right now, because they were right at capacity, I think they were, 2 trucks at half capacity? Yeah, 2 trucks at half capacity. So in order to bring us even a little bit extra, they would have to have 3 of their trucks available. So if we plan far enough in advance, we'll be able to get it down, and maybe we only have to do 1 application if it goes down really nice and, smooth, so...
So they're aware of the weight
They're
limits.
aware of it, yes.
They're willing to work around it.
Yes, they are.
They were actually our first vendor to encounter that this year.
Yeah. So what would you guys like to do?
Yeah, I think this bridge is a problem.
Yeah.
And here's a perfect example. I mean, I think at this, for the number of years we've been doing this, that we actually should go out and rebid. Mm-hmm. However, with the bridge, that changes everything. So I myself would be in favor of just awarding it to.
Okay, should we extend it for 1 year or 2? Because we don't have any indication when that bridge is going to be fixed.
I think we can get by with 1 year
one?
and then try it
And then
again
we'll
next
try
year
again.
if we
Okay.
have to. Yeah.
Okay. So can I ask for an action item then for tonight?
I would make a motion.
Oh, boy.
I would
Hold on.
support.
And the motion is to award it to the contractor that we've had the last few years, who at one time was the low bidder,
Yep.
and for a 1-year contract. The assumption they're going to work around, they're going to hold their prices, and we're going to work around the bridge weight limit issues.
And then if the barrel of oil goes up $3 or more, we can make an adjustment, correct?
Yes, I'd put that.
Okay, and put that in there? Okay.
That's fair.
Question, Phil.
Goes up $3 from where?
From where it currently is now. So
From when we...
Yeah, from when we sign the contract. If it
So
goes up.
it'll be in there what it is. I mean, you're gonna have a
I'll have to
dollar
have
figure,
that in there.
not
Yep.
Yeah, have the dollar figure, not just from where it is today.
Well, Phil, is your question, the $3 is based on their raw material?
No, it was just based on what are we
Yeah.
setting the $3 from?
What's the base?
Yeah, what's
The
the
base
And I
price
think
is what
that's
he
been
wants,
answered.
yeah, okay.
Okay, then.
Yes.
So we have a motion. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, so you're authorized to proceed. Next, West River Water Main, haven't we updated that enough?
There is one thing, just informational. At last night's meeting, the board approved the intergovernmental, which is a step towards getting Wayne County's participation in it, and that was signed off and sent today. So we're moving along on that.
And I'm not sure, as the commission, I missed the November meeting, were you updated on that or not?
There was no update then.
There was no update.
So I think the amount is over $800,000.
$857,120.
Yeah, thank you.
That the county's agreed to
pay it.
budget
yes.
at this point, and we've signed, the board authorized an agreement to resurface the southbound lane, the west lane, in tandem with our project. So that's all good news. Any comments on that from the commission? So we're getting something from Wayne County. We've complained enough. That's good. That's good news. Item 3, Amber Court.
Go ahead.
We're still in the planning stages. I met with the resident, sorry. We're still in the planning stages. I met with the resident to the west last week, and we're going to meet again with Bill Bettendorf from the Rains Company and assure them of the route that we'll be taking and ensure them we're going to remove as few trees as possible. And once they're in agreement, we're going to move forward with the planning stage and engineering, and we'll complete it in the spring.
So we've I don't know if everybody's up to date. We had to move the project from where we originally talked, 2 lots to the
West.
west.
Correct.
And part of that discussion with the homeowners going to involve some re-landscaping.
Correct. Yes.
We don't know what yet.
We're still working out those details.
So the idea is by February, you'll be back with a full report as to estimated costs and
Yes.
exact route in relation to property lines and so forth.
Correct. Should be in place by then.
And this will be cheaper than what we originally thought coming through the driveways.
Correct. Substantially cheaper.
Any other questions? I mean, I know this is a bit of an ambiguous thing we've talked about. Jim and I and Brenda have been up there, and I don't know if any of the others of you have walked that, but at any rate, it's a drainage project to at least keep from flooding in a certain area. Okay, so that's it on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the next item would be yard waste. It ends this week on your normal pickup day. Last day for the pickup is on December the 15th. Christmas trees, they will pick up Christmas trees up to 2 weeks after Christmas. So just drag the live Christmas tree out to the road, and they will pick it up on your normal trash day.
Okay.
The next item, we have an update from Ryan Walsh, the wastewater treatment plant operator.
And while Ryan's walking up, I want to say again, welcome. Ryan is our new plant manager, operator at the wastewater treatment facility. I hope you'll give us a good report and that you're still happy to be here.
I am. Hello, everyone. It was nice meeting you all. I have a few main points here. We're working on getting the required testing finished for the landfill sludge hauling potential in the springtime. I sent in the TCLP test has been already sent in. I've confirmed with our laboratory that we'll have all of other tests finished as well on that. And then I'll also follow up with the centrifuge in that for the springtime and make sure that it's all set on that. Sludge storage, we're looking all right on that, so we'll make it till springtime. We managed higher flows at the plant for November at the beginning and mid month, and we were all right. We're in compliance with all of our parameters for the month of November. Our elevator is still broke at the plant. It's actually been broke for a month and a half, and we've had Michigan Elevator has been out 9 times, and we're just running with that. And they've fixed a lot of stuff on it, but we're not paying any more invoices until it's fixed. And we are under contract with Michigan Elevator through this year. And I had Detroit elevator take a look at it and see if they could service it in the future, and they said all right on that. So that's the status on that. But we do need it there. It's important, and it's
So Ryan,
not good.
I want to ask you, the main elevator in the lab, your main building,
Main building, yeah.
not functioning.
No.
And what does Michigan Elevator say is the problem?
They've replaced the contacts. It's been a lot of stuff, actually.
They've been out 9 times.
They just keep coming back, and
Yeah, because we started
Back
getting
and they-
invoice after invoice, and then Joe finally called me up and he said, I told him, I said, this is enough. Tell them to get in there and get it fixed right, or we're going to have to find somebody else.
Yeah,
I said,
I mean,
because after 9
times-
trips, come on.
Sounds like they're
Yeah.
guessing.
Right, and he said the one guy that would come out would be on the phone talking to somebody else, trying to diagnose it over the phone, so that's why Ryan and Joe, they went out, they contacted Detroit Elevator again to see
Didn't
if
we
they
just
would come back.
replace that
and work on it.
elevator?
Yeah,
yeah, we did.
yeah,
About, I think,
just a couple
years
ago.
Yeah, when we
Yeah.
did all that
and
with
just another,
So
have
what's
nothing but
the
trouble.
diagnosis? When are they going to be back and get it fixed, operating?
Well, actually, they were supposed to be there yesterday, and it was a no show on that. The supervisor, I have called him up multiple times in that, and it's always the runaround on it. Like the people are on their way, and they never end up showing up. But
So
for now,
you're going to need somebody to help you out with this, then, eh?
Yeah,
Somebody needs to get
we've-
on it tomorrow and make a phone call.
I'll make a few phone calls for you.
So
and we've already spent enough with them, Michigan Elevator. So that's where
Sounds
we're
like
at
they're
on
just going
that.
to let the contract run out.
when does our
So-
contract expire? You probably don't know.
The end of this year?
Yeah, I believe so. So
Well, who's the other?
Year, when you talk year, are you talking calendar year or fiscal year? What is it?
Is that one running?
calendar year?
Calendar year, yeah. December 31st, yeah.
Yep.
2 weeks from now.
Contract must have a provision in it that if they fail to perform or provide service, that you can terminate it. I guess you're going to have to get
I'll have
involved.
to dig out that contract and look at it.
I think it's time you tell Michigan to hit the road.
Meantime, they
Oh.
got to get it fixed or operating. You can always
Yep.
talk about switching companies, but I'm sorry to hear that you're having that problem. Was
Yep.
this a problem Joe had started with and you inherited? Or
Yeah, it's been happening for months and months. So probably
malfunction?
we haven't
Often?
had an elevator for a month and a half now.
Were you aware of that, Lorinda?
Yeah, Joe had been working on it. He had been in touch with Michigan Elevator, and they had been out on several trips. And each time I started getting these invoices, so I called Joe up. I'm like, okay, now what's wrong? It's sensors or whatever, contacts,
Contacts,
motherboard or something they were talking about.
Motherboard. It
something
seems,
about
seems like
cleaning
it's
out-
always something.
Yeah, cleaning out the track even, which he ended up putting into their maintenance because it would hang up the elevator somehow. So he's been on them.
Will you get on it tomorrow?
Yes, I will.
We'll talk about it, but I would say that you may get the township attorney involved if they're not going to perform. So
Okay,
you size it up and we can talk about it.
okay.
Yes.
Ryan, I had
Okay.
a question on this. If the elevator was running perfectly, no problems, then how often is it used on a daily basis? Now, I recognize that's a variable spectrum there, but what is it, from what to what?
Well, our operator, he uses it a lot. He uses it probably 15 times a day, and also
Up and down.
Yup,
That's 15
up
trips.
and
Okay.
since it's 4 floors in that. And then also for maintenance, we have our new sewage pump it's the 3rd one, which is waiting to be installed in that. And without a working elevator, we can't start on that.
Can't get the equipment down the stairs.
We can't because it's
So you think
heavy.
it's minimum 15 times a day?
Minimum, yes.
And then maximum could be if the water level
Probably-
starts to rise and things like that, then it goes higher?
30 times a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we need to get on
Yeah,
this tomorrow.
it's just, something that has to be fixed.
I just want to understand this now. So it's not working, so that means that a man has to walk the staircase 4 flights up and 4 flights
Yes. Yep, that's
Okay.
correct.
down. Okay.
Which is why I had Detroit Elevator, had them look at it this past week, and just so we could see if they could work on it, since Michigan Elevator obviously is
What did
not
Troy
gonna work
say about
out.
it again? Troy?
Detroit Elevator said that they can work on it, so we could either switch, and obviously at the end of the month, because that's a yearly.
Oh, you mean it needs to be fixed tomorrow, really? So I guess.
Yeah.
No, we'll continue to try and get them to get out there and fix it. And
In the meantime, have Detroit Elevator fix it.
When you exchanged things with Joe, did you talk about emergency procedures? If you have a repair that requires an emergency action, how to deal with that?
Yeah, we can set up a hoist, and we can, there's metal in the floor at each level, so we could open it all up, and then we could have a hoist way up on top, and then use that. So,
What I
like
meant
saying
was,
for
whether it's
equipment.
this elevator or
Yeah.
some other emergency at the plant that needs an action to take place, we've always had a procedure where Joe would contact the DPS director, if necessary, the township manager,
Okay.
and get something authorized so that you're operational. We just don't let things go if there's an
Yep.
emergency. So
Okay.
if you're unclear on that
I'll make sure I
procedure,
do
we
that.
certainly need to revisit it.
All right.
Okay?
Yep.
We'll be talking tomorrow about that. Anything else?
We had our final basis of design for the wastewater treatment plant, which was submitted by OHM advisors to the DEQ. Which has our ILP upgrade, and it also our final clarifier, which will eventually, that's in there also. So that has been submitted in that, and if any of you need that, I can send an email of that.
So that's in relation to the administrative consent order by
Yes,
the DEQ?
that's correct. That's it.
Okay. Well, sounds like everything's moving along, and everything is moving along pretty well, except for this elevator problem.
Everything is, yes.
I don't know if everybody caught it, but you said through November, with all the rains we've had and so forth, that we were in compliance with all our discharges through that whole month. So that's good.
We were, yes. Yeah.
Are there any other questions anybody can think of? All right. Well, listen, I hope that every month you can come to us and give a little update what's going on.
Okay.
Joel Keefe always did, and but on something like this that you need fixed, we need to jump right on it and not wait to come here. The lady with the red hair over there is the one to talk to. She's going to make a phone call and express a great deal of frustration and anger tomorrow and get things started.
Put my red hair to good use.
And I think we should try to find the contract because they may be liable for
Okay.
this inexcusable delay in getting it fixed and operating.
Okay.
Funny.
I agree.
I've heard of these, I don't know if you've all experienced this, but sometimes, and I know of a case near my condo in Florida, where we were having elevator problems too. I had to switch companies because of failure to perform. You know, they used to say, like the old-fashioned copy machines, Xerox, Burroughs, and all that, that they were only good as the repair people coming out. You know, you could have the same repair person come out day after day to fix, and never really get it fixed well until you got somebody that really could fix it, and then it worked fine. So maybe that's what we've got going here, but that sounds inexcusable and very bad. So hope we can get on it, Ryan.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks for being here, and don't hesitate to call Lorinda, or we want you to come here every meeting if you can, so thank you.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Okay. All right. That's it, I guess, right, Lorinda?
Yes.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is discussion on roads. And you know, commissioners, I just want to say, I was so impressed with the November meeting. Phil Kennedy, this is the second time he's run a meeting for me, and you're always done in a half hour. I mean, I don't usually get through the Pledge of Allegiance in a half hour.
Time's money.
So I had to talk to Phil about it. He said, well, there's a different level of efficiency going on here. At any rate, you know, we all like to talk, and some things need to be talked through. What I've done is, you have another memo on roads in front of you, and I'll tell you the intent of this one is to talk about our options that might be available. And these are out of my lips, and I don't know, you all may have some options too, so I wanted to discuss them. But the first thing is what I asked Lorinda to do. You see this envelope? This says roads discussion. I want to ask you to keep your roads packet available to bring it to every meeting, so that you want to refer to these things, we got them to refer to, okay? And it might be easier if you had a manila folder, but bring your roads package like I do. I carry it with me to every meeting, and because from now on we're going to talk about roads until we're done talking about them. So put this memo together, and I am pleased that our supervisor is here. Brian, we're glad you're here, and Jim Nelson, I'm glad you're here as well. So I'm going to kind of read through this and make sure we all are, I want us to all be on the same page. So I started out by saying, commissioners, it's up to you. And I mean that. It's up to you to come back with what you think is going to be our approach to roads if we're going to have one. So as we move into the new year, we're going to continue to work on a plan for township roads. I mean, the question is, are we going to continue to work on a plan for township roads? To submit to the township board, because we're advisory, we submit it to the township board, and it'd be up to them whether they submit it to the voters at a general election. And it occurs that in 2018 there are two elections, and that's the timing issue. The two elections are an August primary and a November election. This is what they call a midterm election because it's just for the governor and state officials, not for the president, so midterm. At any rate, in August and November, there will be an election. And if we take any action, and it's pointed out in the second paragraph on timing, the township board has to approve any ballot proposal at least 90 days before the election, which means we'd have to get it to them 120 days or 150 days before, so that they have time to mull over whatever it is we're recommending. So given where we're at, that means that maybe by April or July for November, we'd have to have some recommendations. So here's the options I thought of, and I'd like to discuss them all a little bit with all of you. First is do nothing. Realistically, we could do nothing. There's a lot of citizens out there that oppose any new tax. And I know that we're never going to get agreement. I mean, we could talk about the best project in the world, and somebody's going to find fault with it. You all know that. It's hard to get agreement in the public discussions today. So a lot of citizens think our roads are okay. I mean, some I talk to, and I often think of you, Phil, if living on South Point, that if you just go to Kroger's, come over the bridge and go to home Kroger's, you're not driving on the bad section of Meridian or the bad sections of Church or the bad sections of East River or West River. even though yours may get bad someday, they're not as bad as the other spots. So some citizens say, well, the roads are okay. And then the citizens that do know that the county owns all the roads, we've already talked about that, still have the attitude, let the county fix them. And on that point, 2 months ago, or 3 months ago now, we brought forth the county needs study that everybody had a chance to see. And in the county needs study, their top 100 projects, and I'm saying this again because we're on television, in case it's working and anybody's listening. The top 100 projects, we don't have a street project on it. We're competing with roads in Livonia, Grosse Pointe, Harper Woods, Brownstown, Westland, Plymouth, Northville, all over. And some roads that carry much more traffic than our roads do. So we don't have a project in their top 100. They do about 14 to 17 projects a year. So if you do the math, that means in the next 5 or 6 years, even if we got on their list, there's no plan to do anything on Grosse Ile as far as resurfacing a road is concerned. They'll patch potholes, and they have done a decent job of that this year. So one possibility is do nothing. Another possibility, option 2, is to do nothing for now. Just wait until some of our existing township debt expires. And if you look at the second to the last page in the road handout, I asked our finance director to put together the debt retirement schedule. And you'll see that in 2024, the township debt really drops. One of the things that drops significantly, especially by 2025, is debt that you could relate to our commission, which is the sewer debt, equal to over 4 mils. By 2025, that drops. So you could just say, well, we're not going to do anything until that drops, and then go back to the voters. So that's an option. That's a long time to wait. So it says in the memo under item 2 that, in fact, by 2026, the equivalent of 4 mil sanitary sewer debt will finally be paid off. Option 3, ask for a certain tax levy, this is hypothetical, for a specific number of years. Example, ask for 1 year for 10 mils. 1 mil raises $600,000. In 10 years, we could complete $6 million worth of improvements. So by the year 2029, think of that, by the year 2029, we would improve some of today's worst roads at the rate of $600,000 a year. Item 4 is request voters to approve a tax levy under option 3, ask for a certain amount of money for a number of years. But instead of doing it $600,000 a year, or whatever the amount it raises a year, issue a bond issue and improve most of the roads in a 2 or 3 year period. Sold the bonds, if you raised, say, $9 million, you could complete most of the projects within a 2 or 3 year period. Number 5, this is an option I do want to explain. We could shorten the list of what we believe are the priority roads that need to be fixed. In other words, only fix the worst for now. This could be some sections of Meridian, some of East River Road, some of Church Road. Under this option, the DPS needs to consider what will many of the other roads look like after whatever the time period is, say by 2029 or 2030. They might be badly deteriorated. Item 6, consider how much money will be needed to address whatever DPS determines to be the priority and in the best interest of township residents. In other words, should we go for 1 mil, 2 mils, 1.5 mils? This commission, if we're going to make a recommendation, has to consider what we believe voters might favorably consider, what's reasonable. Or, like some of the other options, should we wait and ask in future years? Consider the length of the millage. Should it be 10 years, 12 years, 14 years? If we levy a millage, how much money will it raise? And what is too long for the voters to approve? I would tell you that one of the criticisms we had about our last proposal was that 20 years was too long. Item 8 is maintenance, and we have to remember this as a backdrop. Right now we levy 0.4 of a mil. It's actually because of the Headley rollback, 0.39 of a mil. And I think a lot of people don't know what Headley is anymore. I mean, especially the younger generation. But we levy this 0.4 of a mil, and it's money we use for maintenance, roadside maintenance, additional snow plowing, additional mowing along the roadsides, dust control. And of the $230,000 we raise a year, we spend about $100,000 repairing neighborhood streets. So as we talk about developing a road program, it's for the primary roads, the major roads that, like Ferry, like Bellevue, like Meridian, like East River, West River, the main roads that carry traffic to and from the subdivisions or the neighborhoods. Then I finally had a PS or a post note, and then I'm glad you're here for this, Brian and Jim. Jim Bundy would really give us advice on this. But I thought, well, if we do develop a plan, including certain projects, the funding desired, the time frame, should we request a joint study session with the township board so we could explain to the township board all the things, the options we looked at, and why we are coming from where we're coming. And, of course, whatever we recommend will be up to the township board to decide if that's what they want to put on the ballot. So with that and my little bit of a sinus problem, I hope you understood it all. I want you to think about all these options, and I'd like to now go around the table and ask for you if you have questions or these too many options. Maybe you have another option. And maybe we ought to start at the right hand here with you, John.
Well, no answer is the good one. And how do you determine what the majority of the taxpayers really want? So one of the ways to do it is by arithmetic. So we know what the last two road millages that went up and failed. We know what the percentages are. That's arithmetic. That's not cost accounting. But we would know what the balance was. And this is very difficult because people like to take care of the road in front of their house, but they're not too crazy about the road in front of Les's house or anybody else in the township, not just Les. So how do you measure that? I'm not sure if it would be possible to get a copious survey done by a professional entity who would then have to construct the questions and disseminate to a body of individual homeowners that would be selected by them by way of location, I suppose, and conditions. I'm not sure if that would work, but the last two efforts, albeit many hours being spent and documentation being generated, really didn't produce the desired result. I don't have the percentages in front of me right now. If they were, I didn't really look at them in this material. I have it in one of my calendars. And it was fairly significant on the loss side, both times. The second effort might have been less indicative as the first one because it was a smaller turnout of elected people. And what you really want to know is a larger grouping of people and what they think. Now, having said all of that, I remember first driving onto Grosse Ile on Grosse Ile Parkway in 1973. And the road was so bad that I was laughing between Meridian Road and East River Road. So some of those people are still alive. And when you tell them the roads are bad, and Jim Bundy grew up out here, they're going to say, well, what are you talking about? Because it was so bad it was laughable, and Jim knows what I'm talking about. So that's part of what you have to deal with here, because there's a number of experienced older individuals here now that did experience roads in, at least points of roads, in different conditions. So I'm not sure if that survey would be possible. I know it's been applied here in the township and other areas professionally. We can't do it. We don't have the data. We don't have the experience. We just don't have it.
Well, it's a good thought.
Enough said.
It's a good thought,
It
Jim.
might not apply, but
Well, it's a good thought, I think. So I wrote it down as a possibility. Bill?
Well, just looking over the list, I personally just don't see item 1 and 2 as feasible. Do nothing is to me not an answer, and do nothing for now. Wait till 2025 or 6 till the millage expires. I mean, the condition of the roads that are deteriorating now faster than we can keep up with them is just going to accelerate and get worse. I just don't see that as an option right now. I'm looking towards either option 3 or 4 as what I would consider, which would be a millage, a direct millage for a certain number of years that would generate money, or a bond issue. I mean, the question there, of course, is the advantage of getting the money all up front from a bond issue going to outweigh the interest expense on the bonds? I mean, certainly we're going to, we'll get a bunch of money up front, but then we'll be paying it back over time. And so the total cost of it will be greater. I would say possibly a combination of the two. And certainly when we look at the debt that's going to be expiring right now, just 8 years down the road, 7-8 years down the road, I think we could capture some of that millage in an additional millage increase to really fix the roads. But I just personally just don't think that we can afford to wait from what I've seen. And I'll reiterate that with what John said, a lot of the comment we had from the last proposal that went before the voters was that they were asked to vote on both the water main issue and the roads at the same time, and it was too much. If they had been separate, if the roads had been a standalone proposal, it could have done better. And so I think with that in mind, and also the last meeting that we had, the public meeting that we had several months ago, we had more people in the audience for that meeting than we did for all the public meetings we held for the previous request of the voters. And I think I commented at the time, the roads are now bad enough that people are starting to pay attention. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Phil. That's a very good comment. Les?
Mr. Riley and Mr. Kennedy said it all for me.
All right. I don't like it when you're that brief because
More to come.
anyway. All right, Brenda.
I'm sorry.
No, you go first.
We're going around the table first here.
I do agree that something does need to be done. My concern is just with the situation of the bridge, the county bridge. What would that do to construction costs in having to do that maintenance? We don't really know a whole lot of what's going on with that. I'm sure it would increase it.
I see it, and that's a good point. If you put something on the ballot, say next November, get approved in November, we wouldn't be out to bid with anything until 2019.
Okay.
2019. Now, would the bridge be fixed by then? I don't know if it'd be fixed in the next year.
Mm-hmm.
We might decide, because of that, to put off until 2020. But we're going to have an experience with that this year with the West River Road project. Mm-hmm. But so that's a legitimate concern. Okay. How do you feel about some of these options?
I guess I like 3 and 4 are probably the best.
You think do nothing is not an option?
I don't think so. I think something, at least present something.
Okay, anything else? No. Budney.
Thank you, sir. I certainly agree with everybody in option number one isn't an option. I mean, we wouldn't be doing our job if we did nothing. We need to present something to the people. If they turn it down, they turn it down, but we need to present something to them. So the do nothing, I don't even think should be there. As far as the second one, it's interesting. I mean, there is a lot of talk about those mills dropping off, or that debt dropping off. But take into account that there's a lot of other departments, a lot of other trustee liaisons looking at it for the departments they're liaison for. So that those mills aren't necessarily all going to would all flow our way. That and the fact that, again, it's not until 2025, 26, that's too long to wait. We have to keep in mind, as our roads deteriorate, the farther they deteriorate, the more it's going to cost, because the more that'll have to be done. We've experienced that already, where things that we wanted to chip seal, that we can no longer chip seal. And things that we might want to mill, if we wait too long, we're going to have to tear up the whole road and redo it. So anything that where we're putting it out, I don't think is an option to us. We need to do something. I, too, like 3 or 4, and that's what I think we're going to have to discuss and really get into and see what we want to do. I agree that the 20 years, that was too long for people, but something in the 10, 12, even 14 years, I think, is something we can talk about and just decide on based on what we feel we need to do the projects. I actually don't think shortening the list is an answer. It's a Band-Aid. It becomes a Band-Aid. I think we need a long-range program looking at all our roads, fixing them as quickly as we can so it'll cost us the least, actually, in the long run. Money, we talked about the years, and we always have to keep that maintenance levy in mind, and because it's something different than what we have, but we need it. We have to keep that. We have to take care of our residential roads along with the primary roads. So I think this is a good outline. I think it really falls into number 3 or number 4, and we need to put together a project to work within that.
So with that, Mr. Supervisor Brian Loftus, you're here. Would you care to speak to this issue at all? You have a copy of the report, and I think I'd like to, Lorinda, you have an extra copy.
Yes.
If you could give it to Mr. Nelson. Should have given it to him beginning of the meeting. Sorry, Jim, but
He's a fast reader.
yeah.
So with the options considered, I guess I'm going to pretty much drop in place 3 or 4. 4 concerns me with when you write 10% off the top for a bond issuing fee. I think we could use that, $1 million+ better. And there are some opportunities. I think option 3, put it out to the voters. And I think we got a pretty good survey the last time when the millage came out. The general indication was it was too much money for too long a time. But
And mixed. And it was mixed.
So, but that was the kind of feedback I got. It's a county road. Why are we spending that much for that long? When is the county ever going to fix them? Well, we know the answers to both those questions.
And Brian, just to throw in there, Phil brought up a good point. We had 3 open houses, let's say, for the previous millage, and we got more people in the one meeting 2 months ago than we had. And no one was at that meeting was saying they're Wayne County's roads, let them fix them. I think
pretty much
the
figured it
message
out at
has
that
gotten
point.
across. Yes, they're Wayne County's roads. They're not going to fix them. So,
But as Ms. Cloutier brought up, we've got the approach bridge, and we're going to learn, from that on what kind of capacities we have coming across in this West River project. And my hat's off how you wrangled over $750,000 out of Wayne County. But maybe that's the trend. Maybe that's the partnership we can count on going forward. There's a new regime there. Gosh, I'm just hoping for the best. I know I've had more communication with Wayne County in the last 6 months than in my previous 8 years. So I'm hoping for the best. But as I look at the same problem, Bill, look at the option 3. Do it on an internal millage. Leave the bonding out, and then if we're making good headway, if we're showing results, there may be an opportunity to add another $500,000 as in the future, which wouldn't be that far away when like that big millage, the big judgment mill, not the judgment, the sewer millage drops off. Free up the money. We'll show the residents. I probably won't be around anymore, but somebody in my shoes will be able to show the residents, this is what we've done with your money. And if they're proud of it, I think we could probably ask for a little bit more to give back, what was reduced from that dropping that 4 mills off. So I'm kind of trending towards 3 or 4, but I'm really favoring 3, and it's been a good discussion. So I'm optimistic. Got to be optimistic.
Well, thank you. When you say 3 or 4, what do you mean 3 or 4?
The
options 3 or 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
And I'm option 3 without the bonding costs. I just hate writing off 10%.
It's substantial,
It
Brian.
is.
No question about it. It changes everything.
Mm-hmm. And it would slow us down a little bit, but again, show the residents headway, show them the kind of work we will have done, because where we fix stuff, we do a good job, I think. We do a good job for the residents. Show them the quality that we're going to do, that we're responsible stewards of their dollars, and they may open up the wallets a little bit more when that sewer millage drops off. Then we can get a lot more done. So, my thoughts.
Very good. Thank you. And Mr. Nelson.
Thank you for letting me. I feel quite honored.
We're glad to see you again.
More fun over here for me. The last time, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the millage failed by 286 votes. Do we have
I'm
that?
not sure what the percentage was. I don't know.
But do we have that number anywhere?
Yeah.
I thought it was 286. I don't know what the percentage was.
It was a little under, as I recall, a little under 3,000 votes total.
Failed by 280.
I have it here.
In your memo.
The request failed, but it was, as John says, it was a special election. That was probably a mistake, but it was 1,075 yes to 1,361 no. So it was 280 votes roughly.
And that's with water?
55-45. I didn't do the math on that, but I'm just guessing.
That's with water and the roads last time.
Right.
So our good friend, Mr. Woody Clark, said to me soon after that, Jim, my friends and I would all have voted for this if you guys hadn't put the water in there with the roads. And I said, Woody, can I have that in writing? Well, you know how far that went. But it sounded like, and I probably talked to maybe 10 residents that said, without the water, we'd have voted for it. So maybe that'll help us, because this time it's without the water.
Very good. I appreciate those comments.
Phil stole most of my thunder, so I'll step aside.
Well, we're glad. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. John and Lorinda, you deal with road complaints all the time, and I'll go to John first. You've seen all the documents, John. You've had a copy of this cost estimate for roads, and arbitrarily we put them into some priority based on traffic volume mostly and condition. What are your thoughts?
I agree with everyone. Doing nothing is not an option, and 3 and 4 are the best options moving forward. I hear a lot of people saying they're county roads and let them fix them, and I just keep telling them, well, Wayne County's not going to fix them. I just had this conversation with a neighbor yesterday in my driveway, where he said, we pay all this money for them to fix them, let them fix them. I used your example of the list that we're not even on the list. So we just got to educate them and leave it up to them.
I'll go back to 2013 and 2014. Meridian was on the list. Meridian was on the list of the counties. Back then they had the top 200, not 100 projects. And we were around 84, 94 in that range. But now we're not on the list. So other roads in the county with higher traffic volumes have gotten on the list. So, my coughing, but Brenda.
I agree with everybody. We can't just wait to do anything because the roads will deteriorate, further. The chip seal was a great idea, but with no money to work with, where do we go from here? I know I see the list on here of some of the worst roads, but I think about some of these other roads like Bellevue from Meridian to East River. I mean, it's pathetic. And I know Ferry Road is too. Church Road, another one. I mean, it's traveled by thousands of people every day. So anything that we can do, separate the water mains from, it was good. It was good that we decided to put the water main in first, then put the road over it. But maybe we can tighten our belts a little bit too, and maybe we can still replace some of these water mains and still get the roads fixed. We just have to be creative.
Well, in fact, we have. Last year we did the East River.
Yeah.
And next year we're going to do West River. And, of course, you recall 3 years ago the fire chief came here?
Oh, yeah.
And encouraged us to do those so we could complete the 12-inch pipe replacement that encircles the island, and mostly for fire flow purposes. So we have the volume of water we can deliver if there's an emergency. So we are finishing that part of it, but almost any one of these roads, and most of the water main are not under the road but adjacent to it.
Correct.
Like Church Road's a good example. It's not under the road. It's adjacent to it. Our hope was to get the water main fixed so we don't have to have water main breaks that affect our new road pavement.
Right.
That was our goal, but it was just too much, I guess, as people have said. So what I'd like to ask everybody to do, you all have this one-page summary now and a map, and the one-page summary I'm referring to talks about the cost estimate for what we identified as the major road improvements that need to be fixed. But I guess we could still add to it. But for our next meeting, I'd like to ask you all to really study this and think about is this the right priority? How much money do you really think you'd like to ask for? I heard the supervisor and a couple of you made comments, let's not bond, let's just say, all right, if we're going to go for 10 years or 12 years with a certain, maybe it could be 14 years. I mean, who knows? And get a program going. If we'd have done that the last 10 years, we'd have had a lot of roads fixed by now. So it's never too late to go out and ask. Get started. And whether we're going to go for 1 mil or keep in mind 1 mil raises $600,000. That's barely a mile. A mil and a half would raise $900,000. We could do well over a mile of road a year. Those are the things I think we need to think about. And based on your comments, it's pretty simple. All we need is to have that combination in our heads. What are you willing to recommend to the township? We've got all the data here to the township board, and I'd like at our February meeting to have a very enriching discussion on this issue. And any public that wishes to attend would be welcome to attend. And all this information we're talking about is on file in the DPS office. You can see the county roads list, the needs list, the list we've put together, and all the options that we've talked about tonight. It's all available at the DPS desk. Are there any other, before I stop talking, any other comments any of you want to make about this at this point? Everybody accept the assignment to give some real thought to this? I'd be happy to have you call me anytime if you want to talk about it. Or talk to each other, whatever. Further discussion? All right, with that, we'll end that discussion, and I think the next item on the agenda was Chairman's report, and I don't have a report other than this. Roads seem to be an issue that everybody wants to talk about, and most people don't want to pay for them, but that's the reality of life. So I'm done for this evening. We'll go around the table. Mr. Budney.
I really have nothing other than to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, both out in TV land and certainly my fellow commissioners and our employees.
Brenda.
Yep, I have nothing else, and Merry Christmas, everyone, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. John?
Nothing further at this point.
Bill?
I just have one question. In the roads packet was this graph of municipal or general revenue comparison. And I was just curious, we show Michigan at minus 10%, which just puts us totally off the chart. And do you wish to have make any comment enlightening as to what brought that about, or
yeah,
why
sure.
we're so far from, I mean, even other states that over this last decade plus seem to have been in worse shape than we are. We really seem to have.
You know, I'm glad you brought it up. I added this, and I think we've had it previously, but I hope that you saw it, Mr. Loftus, and you too, Mr. Nelson. It's the last page in that packet, or it's in the middle, I guess. But this was done by the U.S. Census Bureau, and they do apparently a census of government finances. And this was updated. This was a period between 2002 and 2012, the census of government finance. What it demonstrates, in my mind, is the crisis we went through and lived through with the decline of auto sales and the real crisis we hit in Michigan with unemployment during the, let's just call it the Granholm era, which the unfortunate 8-year period there when Michigan's revenues declined and there was tremendous economic setbacks here in the state. The issue that maybe our township board has to address is property values plummeted, if you recall, in Michigan. And at the same time, state revenues plummeted. And during that period of time, what this shows is the advancements made in municipal revenue growth between the 10-year period, 2002 and 2012. And the leading state was Hawaii, but even some of our neighboring states were in the extreme positive, where they had 20, 30% growth in revenue in that 10-year period, when in fact Michigan's growth in local government finance declined. A big part of that was the revenue sharing. The property taxes plummeted. We all experienced that, and part of what they discussed last night was at the township board meeting was this drop in property tax values, which nobody's going to make up with the combined effect of Proposal A and the Headley Amendment, which limits the growth, any growth you have. I mean, the community could grow their tax roll back, rebound, by 10 or 20% in a year. But with Proposal A and Headley, the most you're going to grow is not over 5%, but that's limited by the rate of inflation index, whatever index that statute calls for. So in our case as a township, I think our property values around 2008 or 9 dropped 20%. And our state revenue sharing dropped more than 20%. And that's not been made up yet. So that's what that indicates, and it's good to discuss it. Now, the Municipal League, the Michigan Municipal League, I got this out of their magazine. They're really pushing for restructuring of local government finance. I don't know that they're going to be successful, and I don't know if the Townships Association is working with them. It's going to be a hard sell, and I don't know what their magic bullet's going to be. But the current state of affairs is that a lot of the cities in the state that are in trouble. It's because of some legacy costs, but also as property values have turned around, they can't take advantage of that new growth and property values. Such a reliance on an antiquated property tax system. As a township, as a general law township, I think we only can levy 1 mil, and that's why everything else is extra voted. Correct?
So way back when Wayne County had an allocation board, we were allocated to levy without, just the board could levy it. It didn't need voter approval. 1.85 mils. Then we went for a voter-approved addition of 2 mils. The 1.85 mils, thanks to Headley, has ratcheted back to 1.2585 mils, and the 2 mils is back to 1.75 mils or something like that. We got reminded of our deficit for this year by a couple of well-meaning residents. Had we been able to levy the full 1.85 allocated mills, and that's better than 2, that would put us in a surplus. Headley ratchets back every year. We, as community members, as a board, as residents, I think have been working hard to improve our property values, making Grosse Ile a desirable place to live. Our reward is the property values have gone up, but with Headley, the voter-approved millages have gone down to eliminate any gains we got in the improvements in property value other than new homes. I'm going to send out some information. Michigan Municipal League has sort of I'm going to just say, my opinion, sort of an agenda to redo the tax structure. I've been to a couple of more Wayne County-oriented events where we need new taxes, we need local income tax, which a township can't levy, liquor tax, sales tax, et cetera, local option sales tax. It just isn't. I just don't think those are good ideas. But if we need to get Headley out of the state constitution. Proposal A fixed all the parts of Headley that needed to be fixed. Proposal A was good. I mean, it went from 4% to 6%, but it brought the state equalized value down to half the market value. Complicated process. But when you do 8 or 9 budgets, you tend to get a feel for being in the belly of the beast. But we need to get the vestiges of Headley because they're out of the state constitution. Does anybody at the state legislature or a ballot initiative organization have the guts to do that? I mean, basically, you're going to raise people's taxes, but they're going to be voluntarily raised. All our voter-approved millages are voluntary, encumbrances on people. They want to spend their money. They want us to spend it properly. And when we told them we would give them such and such in service, such and such a product, if they would give us 1 mil, but now that mill is down to 0.8 mils, and we can't give them the service we promised. We are not, through no fault of our own, we are unable to uphold our end of the bargain. Of course, they're not upholding their end either because they're paying less, but it's something unforeseen. It's out of control.
And a lot of people, particularly younger generations like Brenda's, don't know what Headley is. And essentially in 1982, I think it was?
1978, Headley was approved. In 1998 or 1999, they abolished the Wayne County Allocation Board because we looked at petitioning to have our allocated mill returned to its level. They would, if the Allocation Board were still in place, that they would have that ability, but it only provided funding to the remaining general law townships. 3 in Wayne County. So, there was no reason, at the time they saw no reason to maintain the allocation board because there were just so few general law townships. I'm going to look into what our options are. Should we go the charter township route? There may be some options there. Again, the more I read, the more I realize what I don't know and really should know.
Brian, a long time ago, and I took a really good look at charter townships and general law townships. This is a while ago, but I spent a lot of time on it, and we had the better form, given all our variable necessities.
It comes up again and again. This would just be one facet of it. I would like to know what the distinction is. What does a charter township allowed to do in terms of levying, or obviously there's not going to be an allocated because the allocation board didn't apply. But going back to the days when Headley passed Prop A, when they had disbanded the allocation board.
Remember with that just for a minute, Proposal A, it really did work. And it worked at the time, and it was incepted in 1993, I believe. And when that 94, it was passed in 93, incepted in 94.
Passed in 94, applied in 95. But you're close, John.
Okay. Right then, it was very beneficial to the taxpayer resident because it dropped the cost down substantially. And the reason why it did was because some of the educational funding was thrown into another basket. So then what happened was a lot of entities, whatever they were, went in for additional millage. And the people were happy to vote it in because they still were recognizing a substantial reduction in their bottom line taxes for a given year. Once those special millages were placed, they kept being reinstituted, and it lifted the floor much higher and eclipsed a lot of the benefit of Proposal A.
Again, they were mostly voter-approved millages.
Oh, yes.
So it's,
yes.
if it's a wound, it's a self-inflicted one.
It's a self-inflicted wound because it really didn't bleed at the time because the savings were substantial. That's the difference.
But the mindset then, was you can never lose money in real estate. Property values are always going to increase, right? To right around 2008 and 2009, and there was no recovery mechanism built into Headley, built into Prop A. So here we are. We're trying to fight our way out, and it's such an uphill battle on a greased pole that we're in a pickle.
Well,
good news.
Well, thank you, and Phil, aren't you glad you asked that question?
Nothing further.
Les, do you have anything?
Oh, yeah. I'm very glad to see that we have 3 people here from the township board, especially the supervisor. I'm going to direct this to Brian. Since you're talking to all these guys in the county, maybe you can get the signs changed to my street. The proper name of the street, which is Grosse Ile Parkway, not Parkway Drive. If you look on any map of the township, anywhere in the county, Grosse Ile Parkway is the name of the street, not Parkway Drive.
I will get to work on that.
Thank you, sir.
We all hope you will.
Now, the other thing I have to say is tonight coming down here, and this was really something that sticks in my craw, is snowplow removal. All these private contractors that push their snow out into the street and leave this big blob of snow sitting on the edge of the road. The county comes to plow the roads, and here's this frozen mound of snow coming off of their property onto the township or county road. Bang goes the plow. They have breakdowns and all kinds of stuff. Up north Michigan, if you get caught shoving snow out into the road right away, it's a $500 fine. That's something that can be taken care of in this township. On the way down here, there was 4 or 5 piles of snow on the right-hand side of the road. I would have come to the township board meeting if that meeting was tomorrow night, because I plowed snow for many, many years, and I had people employed for me doing it, and it was one thing: you don't push the customer's snow in the road.
And what's the solution, Les? Where do they put it? How do they do that?
You push it up on your own property. You don't push it out in the road. I never did it. And if you push it in the road, you got to get it way out of the road, not at the edge of the road where here this frozen mound of snow is.
So it's still in the county right away, just on the across the road?
In the county right away.
So their option would be to push it 10 feet further onto a neighbor's property who probably wouldn't be real happy.
Keep it on your own property. It's your snow. I don't want your snow on my road.
I know we have an ordinance that covers. It may not be clear enough, but we'll look into that. And we've got a lot of winter ahead of us, so let's get that fixed right away.
And that's a good job for Tony. When you go up to a house, you knock on the door and says, "Who plowed your snow out here?" Because I saw it happen up north. Who plowed your snow? You're a homeowner. Here's a $500 ticket for plowing it in the right of way.
Well, not only that, Les, I think it's a good job for John and his staff. You're out around the township. So I have a question.
Thanks, Bill.
When you see this happening, and I agree with Les, we all do. When you see this happening, do you stop? You stop, if you witness somebody plowing and doing that, do you stop and talk to them?
No, sir.
Why?
Not his job.
That would be ordinance-related issue, not anything to do with the Department of Public Service. But at your direction, I'll be more than happy to.
Well, I mean, you're out around the township. I would think that you're in a township truck. George is in the township truck. When you witness it being done, you ought to take the number of that operator and talk to him and just say, you can't leave it here. Don't do it again. And to me, it's easy for you to do rather than try to call Tony to go out at that point. You see it happening, right?
Correct, yes.
I would think you ought to stop and talk to people when they're doing it. One way to get at it, at least that would be some enforcement measure, and I would trust that you're just talking a few minutes of your time. So I think
a few minutes
Commission,
at each stop, that would be like, okay, there's 4,000 residents, so let's say half the people are doing it.
It doesn't,
happening.
Look, I live on a street with 20 homes. I mean, I don't see it happening very often, but if you see it happening, you will stop. I would hope, you and George, and just talk to whoever's plowing. I mean, if we have, I don't know, I'll check to see if we have an ordinance. We must have a snow plowing ordinance. Do we have an ordinance?
The ordinance is you can't push it out into the road. That's not what Les is saying. Les is saying they push it across the road, but they leave it.
No, they push it in the road. It's the county right of way. They push it on the road.
The road or the right of way?
Both.
Okay, and right of way is where I would.
Well, when you guys go home tonight, all right?
Yeah.
Jim, when you go up Meridian, do you just look along the?
No, I know what you're saying, and yeah, I'm saying the ordinance says not pushing it and leaving it in the road.
Right. There was
more of it. I think is the problem is in the right of way.
All right, so I think
there was a situation over in Dallas where this person kept pushing the snow out of the people's driveway right into their mailboxes. It finally got so bad that the mail person couldn't even get the mail into the mailboxes.
You're talking about the house across the street.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they bring it right out, and the mailboxes on the other side of the road, they kept pushing
and that certainly is the way most of them plow, is out rather than in or over.
The majority of the people that are plowing snow on private driveways don't know how to plow snow. Case closed. I would like to make a motion that we close this meeting.
Well, just a minute. The chair's going to rule. I think, John, I'd like to talk to you about this because
Sure.
I know you're busy, but you have a couple people out on the road, you and George in particular. When you see it happening, I think we ought to get you a copy of the ordinance, and you ought to get information from people and just say, please don't do it anymore. Here's the ordinance, and it'll only take you a minute. And if we get a complaint, the public's invited to call in to our DPS office, and we'll send our complaint officer out to follow up. But it's more efficient if you can do it when you're witnessing it, I think. It ought to be done as a routine, and I don't think it'll happen that often. But anyway, that's my request. Everybody agree here? We all agree, John. So
Maybe all but one.
well, I mean, that's one efficient way. You catch them doing it, and then just.
It's efficient, but you're now taking somebody out of their job and putting him into somebody else's job, and that's
Talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's just something. Yeah, let's talk about it.
Let's do more than that. Anyway, okay. So now,
A couple of things, Bill, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I just want to make everyone aware. We'll be repairing a water main break on East River Road tomorrow between Manchester and Rucker. So the water will be turned off approximately 8 a.m. tomorrow morning until completed, which includes Halcyon Court.
how big a main is that?
12-inch. So if you're driving the area, please drive slowly and carefully.
Is that old or new?
1997. Also, on West River Road, as everyone knows, the pavement has deteriorated so badly that the Wayne County snowplow destroyed a sanitary manhole frame today, so we had to rebuild that. So on the southbound lane, but just south of Riverview Court, there's a barricade in the road right now currently. So please be aware of that and drive careful around that. And then also just wanted to mention that all the fire hydrants in the township were painted this year in 2017.
John, say that location again, because with the wind blowing and barrels there, where's that location again?
Just south of Riverview Court on the southbound lane. And there is a barricade with sandbags holding in place. You're right, it's really windy. And we have construction barrels also placed there around it.
Thanks, John.
And Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas to everybody. With that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion again.
Support.
Those supported, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody.